The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Wednesday, March 9th, 2016 are currently trading with gold at $1,252.65 an ounce, silver $15.29 an ounce, Texas crude $36.50 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 411 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1961, the first animal safely returned from space after completing one full orbit around the Earth in Sputnik 9. A doggy named Chernushka, or Blackie, returned from the heavens. Today in history. In recent news, Tayrod Pugh, a U.S. Air Force veteran, was found guilty today of attempting to join the Islamic State. After a week-long trial at a Brooklyn federal court, a jury found Tayrod guilty of attempting to provide material support to ISIS and guilty of obstruction for destroying 4 e-storage drives after his detention in Turkey. Pugh is set to be sentenced in September. Pugh's defense lawyer is arguing that all he did was express repugnant views about the Islamic State on Facebook and watch dozens of the group's recruitment videos, and that he was only traveling to Turkey to find work, not to become a jihadist. However, prosecutors are presenting a letter he apparently drafted to his Egyptian wife, which was found on his laptop, in which he vowed to fight for Islam. When detained in Istanbul, he apparently had a black face mask, a map depicting Islamic State's stronghold in Syria, and a chart of the border crossings between Turkey and Syria. Pugh served as an avionics specialist in the Air Force from 1986 to 1990, and later worked as an army contractor in Iraq from 2009 to 2010. Toyota recently showed off a new device that could dramatically assist the visually impaired to better navigate their surroundings. Called Project Blade, an informational device to bridge the gap between a cane or a guide dog. Toyota has been testing various prototypes of the wearable device with individuals from the visually impaired community for the past 3 years, and though the details of the project were released this week, no official timeline has been set for the release. The automaker plans incorporating mapping, object identification, and facial mapping technologies into Blade in the future. Doug Moore, manager of Partner Robotics at Toyota, told ABC that Toyota is thinking about quality of life for individuals and how to impact society. The Lone Star Lowdown is currently looking to fill some ad space. If you have a product or service you'd like to advertise with us, feel free to give me a call at 210-363-2257. This is Rick Rohde with your Lowdown for March 9th, 2016.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I have a joke for you.
Okay.
The government in this town is excellent and uses your tax dollars efficiently.
Bitcoin is immune from attack almost completely. But Bitcoin, you actually gain far more from using that computing power to generate Bitcoin.
The system approaching perfection. It's in time for it to disappear. The system approaching perfection. It's in time for it to disappear.
We'll walk deeper into the belly of the beast. If it means I'm able to further limit reckless government spending. I mean, I have so many ideas. Some are simple, like take down traffic lights and eliminate the post office. The bigger ones will be tougher, like bring all of this crumbling to the ground.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Crypto Show, a show about disruptive technology, currency, and liberty, with a pinch of sticking it to the man. As always, we come to you live from the real heart of the resistance in Austin, Texas, deep beneath the Chase Bank, with a stack of Bitcoin miners at our back, undermining the bank and the man. We bring to you the latest info from those hacking away at the digital revolution and having some fun while we do it.
They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me riding.
Yeah, I'm riding dirty, and I'm also riding without the big man, Chris. So bear with me tonight because I'm not usually the lead host. But I do have another Chris in studio, as well as Brian and Cliff. And on the line, we have Roger Ver. We'll be talking to Roger about some of the stuff that went on in New York City with the consensus, and then we'll get into a little bit of stuff with Satoshi. Cody Wilson will even be popping in here momentarily. And then we have Christopher David from Arcade City, who will be calling in the second hour to tell us about what's going on with Uber and Lyft. So apparently the Austin Nazi Council has decided that they don't want to comply, or they don't want to give way to Uber and Lyft to let them go forward with the way that they were already running things. Everything was fine. You know, the DWI rates were dropping. People had safe rides, and now they're screwed. So Uber and Lyft said, all right, now we're taking our toys and going home. Well, I agree with it. I'm glad that they did. Somebody needs to stand up to these people, and if it means taking your toys and going home, then do it.
I think the next step is they need to start requiring permits and licensing for Tinder users.
Oh, yeah.
They should start with some kind of requirement to get your blood screening before you can get your sexual activity permit.
Sure, why not?
I mean, it's a public health issue. I mean, whenever Tinder comes into a city, the STD rates skyrocket. So they really need to do it for our own good.
Well, that and to protect the business model of the bars, right? So,
yeah. Well, the bars will be the ones lobbying for it, I'm sure.
Yeah, like the taxi cabs are now with Uber and Lyft. So let's go ahead and get into it with Roger. Roger, you were recently at the Consensus in New York, and it's a pretty big gathering of the new things that are happening in Bitcoin. What did you see there that was, new and interesting that really caught your eye?
I think the main point that I could make is that the bankers have arrived. This was very clearly a conference filled with people from the traditional finance industry, so that was kind of interesting to see. And depending on when they bought their tickets, people paid, I think, up to $2,000 per ticket, and they had the packed place. It was just filled with people, and they had a little app for the event where you could scroll through the list of attendees, and it was amazing to see the different people that were in attendance. Like I noticed the CTO of Wells Fargo Bank was there, and a bunch of other bankers were there, and it was just an all-star cast of the traditional finance industry finally taking notice of Bitcoin. So I guess it's like they say, first they laugh at you. They didn't really fight us, and now they're joining us is what it looks like is happening. Although the conference was very clearly a blockchain-focused conference, not necessarily a Bitcoin conference. And lots of people seem to not realize that the most secure, safest, most widely used blockchain by far is the Bitcoin blockchain. But we'll see what happens with time.
That's definitely the narrative. That's the narrative. They'll even say it. They'll say, don't say Bitcoin, say blockchain.
Yeah, and then the new keyword, not even blockchain now, the new keyword is a distributed ledger technology, DLT.
Oh, right. Wow. So, I had a friend recently who works in the mortgage industry, and she said that they're sending out notices at the Mortgage Brokers Association telling people that they need to start looking into this, that this is going to change the mortgage industry. So that's pretty good. I mean, I guess that would be something along Factum's lines, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the mortgage industry is a giant record-keeping problem. And record keeping is what Factum does. The whole problem with the 2008 financial crisis was all these mortgage records were kind of floating around all over the place, and incomplete records, and people were foreclosing on documents that were missing, not because the person didn't pay their mortgage, just because the documents got lost. So the world will be a much better place with blockchain-based organization systems.
Right. Roger, was there anything there that was a positive other than the evil banks wanting to get their tentacles into this?
I guess the biggest positive thing is that there was lots of energy and lots of excitement in the room at the conference, and it was filled with people that were excited about this technology. And I haven't been to a conference that felt that much energy in the room since I think it was the 2013 San Jose, California Bitcoin conference. It was really exciting to see just how much excitement there was and people that were present that were truly excited about this technology. And We'll see how they apply it to their current business models, but it's a great thing that they're paying attention, I think, at the very least.
I'm wondering if you have some sort of private blockchain technology, is there any benefit to that at all, besides just using a private server?
There probably are some. I'm probably not the best person to comment on that. My background was in studying economics, and so Bitcoin and the economic ramifications on the society are what first caught my eye. So I'll let the computer scientists comment on how distributed ledger technology might be beneficial over our traditional database. But I think the benefits there aren't nearly as big as the benefits are of a distributed currency over fiat currency. And we're going to see that happen, regardless of what the banks and traditional companies do with their distributed ledger technology stuff.
Right. So with I guess another question I had was about the whole Craig Wright thing that kind of rolled out right as the conference opened up there, and then Gavin got drug into all that. What did you think of that? And I mean, did Gavin give you kind of any inside information on that, or what do you think?
Yeah, I talked to Gavin directly, and he said he saw with his own eyes Craig Wright sign a message of Gavin's own choosing with keys from block number 1, which only Satoshi would be able to do, or only somebody who had hacked Satoshi, or only somebody Satoshi had given those keys to would be able to do. So that's really, really strong, compelling evidence that Craig Wright is Satoshi that was witnessed by Gavin's own eyes. So at this point, I suppose my thoughts are that that Craig Wright is either Satoshi Nakamoto or he's David Copperfield. Either one of those are pretty interesting.
I mean, the Ian Grigg comment, the Ian Grigg blog post was, pretty interesting to me. He says he seems to say that he's had direct knowledge about this for years. He's known about it for years, and that it's been a secret they've been keeping.
Maybe it is. So, like I said, he's either Satoshi or he's David Copperfield, is the way I see it at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I don't know which, to be honest.
Okay. Brian has a theory on this. He's been digging into his conspiracies on this, and he has a theory about it.
Well, so I don't mean to steal the thunder here, but this is This is Austin's conspiracy radio station. So it might be.
We're conspiring basically to actually be a radio station.
All right. So. So this is most of this hearsay, but it feels a lot closer to the truth than a lot of the story that we've kind of been hearing. So when Gavin and John talked about how they had this cryptographic miracle, I was as skeptical as everyone else, thinking David Copperfield style manipulations. But then Joseph von Perling and Ian Grigg came out, and those guys, I know von Perling had more knowledge that he was letting out in the past. So his testimony, if we can believe what was written in Bitcoin Magazine, if that was indeed him, that holds a lot of sway with me, because these big projects, they can't be done by single individuals. So it's it doesn't make sense to have a single Satoshi. So like the Bitcoin logo was graphic design made. So to give you an example, when Craig Wright went on stage in Australia, he was talking about how the Bitcoin language was Turing complete, and Nick Szabo corrected him on that. So that would kind of lead you to believe that the Bitcoin project, had different people working on different parts of it, and it might make sense that Craig Wright had the initial flash of inspiration for the proof of work, but Bitcoin is so much more. I mean, when you start learning about Bitcoin, it's so many layers down. So the proof of work, and then there's the economic theory, and then once you learn about the entire scripting language underneath it, it's very, very few people in the world understand all of Bitcoin, if anyone.
Cool. I was mostly going to be sitting back here today, but this is Cliff, and I just did want to say, as far as the whole Satoshi Nakamoto, who is this group and this person?
Are you him?
No, I am not him.
Okay.
I'll state that publicly. How's that? But I can say for a fact, back in the day when I created Hushmail, I've had a dozen dinners with Ian Grigg. I've had a dozen dinners with John Matonis. Unless both of these guys have radically changed their, fundamental personality or something the past 15 years, and I don't think they have, they would not go out and state what they've stated publicly and put their reputations on the line if they weren't pretty sure about what they saw and what their firsthand knowledge is. So that tells me right then, that gives me a pretty good feeling about what has been said, and that this is a fairly likely scenario that, at least Craig Wright is the, one of the leads or the lead of the Satoshi Nakamoto group.
So the controversy is why do we have to put up with other people's word for it, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I on?
Yeah.
So this is what's frustrating. You saw Vitalik's statements next to Gavin?
Yes.
The whole signal theory thing. Just show us, and I don't buy this. Oh, the pressure's too great. All right, I'm gone forever. Bye. That's just such a, forgive me, autistic reaction.
It's definitely weird.
Yeah. It's
definitely weird.
It's just so melodramatic that it just beggars belief, right?
So this multi-person theory, it makes sense that you'd have one person who is holding the keys, who holds the Bitcoins. And it also kind of makes sense that they're holding them for the entire group until whatever the expiration date is. And you wouldn't want to have that spread all over the place.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. The LogosRadioNetwork.com.
This is what happens when you call the cops. Say what? This is what happens when you call the cops. Come on. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. This is what happens when you call the cops. You get your rights violated or you all get shot. I'm sick of people being victimized by criminal cops.
And welcome back to the Crypto Show. We've got Roger Ver on the line, Cody Wilson, Chris Odom, Cliff Bexley, and we've got a full house here, and then another guy calling in at the end in the next hour. So you want to go ahead and finish up the thought that you had on?
So none of these projects can be done with single people. So I know Paul Snow helped out on the Ethereum project for a while. Like Paul was talking about giving recommendations on prefix versus postfix stack evaluations on the Ethereum project Vitalik. And myself, Paul, when he came to me with notary chains, there were all kinds of holes in it, and we went back and forth for months and months to figure it out. And this is how you do project. You don't do them as a single person. And so
especially one that works as well as Bitcoin.
Yes, remarkably well. It's incredibly elegant. And I just wanted to thank all of the Team Satoshi members out there. And when you feel it's ready for you, when the time is ready for you to come forward, please do. We welcome you. Craig is taking a whole bunch of the brunt of the madness right now.
Craig Christ.
That's right.
That's a joke. If you listen to the last show, you'll know what we're talking about.
Excellent song.
Yeah. So I guess let's go ahead.
Actually, I'd like to mention something to any of the Satoshi team members that are out there and happen to be listening. Take note of what just happened to the Liberty Reserve guy. They just sentenced him to 20 years in prison, and the judge said that she did it because he didn't show any remorse for having built a payment platform that people all over the world liked and used and improved their lives with. So, be careful about coming forward.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree with you on that. I don't think I even want to know who Satoshi is.
And I do kind of get that feeling too. Craig Wright is not the Satoshi I want. He's
the guy you want. He's like buff and long hair.
The legend.
Yeah. I want a superhero that I imagined.
Okay.
Let me ask you something, Roger. What do you think is going to come out of New York? Like, where do you think the direction is going with these people?
I wish I had a clear answer. It's good that they're looking and paying so much attention. The part that really, I guess, kind of saddened me, and we're opening a whole other can of worms here, but they had a hackathon there, and people could choose what they wanted to hack on. And there were only 2 teams that were working on Bitcoin stuff, and there were 17 teams working on Ethereum stuff, and a couple other teams working on a couple of other things as well. And I think that's in large part because of this Bitcoin scaling issue, where there's not enough on-chain capacity for the next couple of million users even. And certainly not today. Hopefully that'll change in the future. But I think that's a real concern for people already in the Bitcoin industry and people looking to get involved in the Bitcoin industry. So I see that as a real big problem. And that's why people have been arguing about it nonstop for the last 2 years or so. And in the last 6 months, the argument has really heated up. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a way, it's good for us because we do off-chain stuff. But at the same time, I don't think it's very good for Bitcoin. I sort of have mixed feelings about it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's horrible for Bitcoin as a whole, and hopefully that problem can be solved. I guess one of the nice parts about the conference is I got to spend 4 hours with Adam Back one of the evenings there, and we talked extensively about this. And I actually think that we share very, very similar end goals, but share very, very different strategies on how to get there. So, he's the one that, has things, headed his direction at the moment, and hopefully everything will work out just fine. But I kind of think that there's another game plan that has to do with making the block size bigger today. That's an even stronger strategy towards the long-term growth of Bitcoin and supplanting the traditional financial system, and seeing the Bitcoin rival and potentially replace the euro, the dollar, and the yen.
Absolutely.
One of the other, and that's what I signed up for. That's why I got involved with Bitcoin. Is I want to see Bitcoin supplant, all these government currencies around the world. And one of the things that actually kind of made me feel a bit frustrated and discouraged was at the conference there, they had what was called a fireside chat with Bitcoin core developers. And I asked everybody up on the stage there, what is winning? What is success? Why are you involved with Bitcoin? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And like I said, the reason I signed up is I want to see Bitcoin supplant the euro, the dollar, and the yen, and have every single person on the planet be on a payment system that allows them to interact with anybody else without permission. And these people on the stage didn't seem to share that same vision. They said for winning for them is just making sure that Bitcoin isn't controlled or controllable, but they don't care how many people are using it. And if it's just them and their buddies using it, that's good enough. Whereas my long-term strategy is if scaling Bitcoin quickly means that there's a risk of it becoming PayPal 2.0, I think that risk is worth taking because we'll always be able to make another, Bitcoin 3.0 that just us and our crypto anarchist buddies get to use, and it has the properties we want. But I think we only have one really good shot at having Bitcoin become the default platform for people to transact on across the world. And we need to make sure we scale fast enough to allow all these new people to come onto Bitcoin, even if it means risking some decentralization or risking it becoming like I said, PayPal 2.0, I think those risks are worth taking because the reward is so incredibly great. And if we fail with Bitcoin and it winds up morphing into, Bank of America 2.0, we can still make our new version of Bitcoin, and all the crypto anarchists get to use that. It just means we lost out for the world as a whole using that platform as its default currency. But I think we have a really decent shot of the entire world as a whole using Bitcoin and having it have the properties that we want. If we can scale quickly enough and fast enough, even if it means taking some risks along the way. And I think a lot of the other core people don't even seem interested in scaling quickly enough for Bitcoin to become that platform for the world.
Yeah, as far as scaling, what all was talked about as far as scaling? And was there any progress in that? Or
they have a bunch of really cool ideas for these layer 2, off-chain or on-chain, but layer 2 technologies, which are great. But the problem is none of them are ready yet, and none of them are going to be ready for a while. And people want to use Bitcoin today, and really cool services are getting priced out of Bitcoin today because of the transaction fees that are getting involved. It's about $0.05 a transaction at the moment. And, I got to see Vitalik basically at breakfast one morning, the last morning after the conference. And I got to visit with him for a bit. And I told him, I said, it's breaking my heart, but I might have to start launching some things based on Ethereum for things on Bitcoin.com that I want services that I wanted to launch on Bitcoin, but aren't plausible now because of the artificial suppression of the block size. So maybe I'll be launching some things on Ethereum. And of course, Vitalik was happy about that, but it kind of saddens me that I'm having to do things on an altcoin rather than Bitcoin for projects hosted on Bitcoin.com.
Well, one thing that's encouraging to me about Bitcoin is it still appears to have an exponential adoption rate, which is, entirely, and it's like the opposite of what you see in the media narrative. Just the other day, I thought, let's look at this narrative. And I pulled up some BBC articles. There's 2013, Bitcoin is dead. 2014, is Bitcoin doomed? 2016, Bitcoin's going to die, and so on. Meanwhile, I pull up the charts and I see this exponential adoption rate.
Right. Bitcoin's always reported as dead in the media, but if you look at the actual numbers, it's always more popular than ever before.
And there's always a new
Trump.
There's always a new Satoshi. Yeah, there's always some new guy coming out as Satoshi too, or being blamed.
One other thing that I found a bit discouraging, also, that I got to ask the people that were on the Bitcoin Core panel. I asked one of them. I said, let's say Craig Wright is Satoshi, and he proves it beyond any doubt whatsoever. And he says, "Hey, I want on-chain scaling via bigger blocks, and I support bigger blocks, and that's the way I want to scale Bitcoin. I created Bitcoin. That's the way I want things to be done. What would your reaction to Satoshi be?" And to preface the answer to that question, though, too, it should be clear that we know exactly what Satoshi's thoughts were. You can read exactly what he wrote on the Bitcoin forums. And he said, ultimately, the long-term solution is to let the block size get as big as it needs to get. But
Right.
when I asked this person what he thought about Satoshi's opinion in regards to this, the guy who created Bitcoin and the guy that, got people like me signed up and working, every waking moment for over 6 years on this, and got people like Gavin Andreessen and a bunch of others involved, his response was a 4-letter word that I can't say on the radio, Satoshi. So then the 4-letter word started with an F.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my reaction. Wow.
Yeah,
So.
probably not fork, but
Fork Satoshi.
Those last letters, right.
So, yeah. All right. Well,
It's a bit shocking to hear him say that just so openly.
right. So
Was this on stage? No.
This is right after the fireside chat had ended, but everybody was in the room still
and
talking.
we're coming to break. We'll pick this.
Google and Apple are at it again, this time with spy planes that can photograph objects as small as iPhones. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and if the thought of an airborne camera leering at your backyard creeps you out, stay tuned.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
The next time you go sunbathing in your backyard, check the sky first. Google or Apple may have spy planes with cameras buzzing overhead, and they could be filming you. Google's airborne cameras capture images so detailed they can almost count the hairs on your head. And Apple has military-grade cameras so powerful they can spy into your home through skylights and windows. Google says it needs all this power to produce new 3D maps with more detail than Google Earth's satellite images. But who really needs this? I say we need to shut down Google's big eyes before there's no place left to hide from the watchers. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to get back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What you gonna do when they show up in black suits on your street in our mid boots and there's silence here?
And welcome back to the Crypto Show. We're talking with Roger Ver and a whole bunch of guys here. Cody Wilson, Chris Odom, this Brian, what's his name? Dances with Bitcoins over here. That's his new name.
It's so awesome, too.
Yeah,
It
apparently
fits so well.
Chris has Big Chris. I'm a big man. Chris has dubbed Brian here to be Dances with Bitcoins for some reason. And apparently there's some correlation with that along your lines. How does that go?
Yeah. So I was watching the movie again, and so here I'm on the radio show with Bitcoin Jesus and the Bitcoin Roofer, and
the Bitcoin Gunner, and the Bitcoin.
And so we've got a big name in the space called Paul Snow, the Bitcoin Messiah. He's not too happy about that, but so the first line of the 1990s movie laments about the non-existence of Ether, and kind of weird throwback there. And so also, if you look at my IMDb page, I'm totally deadpan, just like Kevin Costner. So that fits too. And so the story starts with Costner achieving a small glory on the battlefield, and his sense of adventure leads him to the frontier, and eventually he gets integrated with the Sioux culture, and he finds it's a superior way of living. So
those damn anarchists.
So yeah. So my story begins with a small glory as well, inside the battlefield of the Federal Reserve. So in secondary school, I participated in this thing called the Fed Challenge. So this is where they pit groups of children against each other, to see who can recommend the best monetary policy. So my team achieved glory by winning the regional competition, and we went up to compete and represent District 5. And
did you volunteer?
We didn't make the cut, so we were not able to represent District 5 in the Capitol.
You would have sacrificed yourself for the glory of the Federal Reserve System?
Something like that. Yeah. So the odds were not in our favor. Interestingly enough, now I work for CEO Snow. So
who takes his own Fed challenge?
Yes,
it's called "How Can You Run the Longest Con?"
And
the deepest cover. Coming from the cold, Snow. See, it's his code name.
Indeed. So the positive inflation thing always kind of bothered me, puzzled me. I couldn't quite figure it out. Fast forward 10 years, my sense of adventure drew me into the Bitcoin space, and I figured at least it would cause a little bit of competition with the banks. And 3-day ACH transfers were crazy. I mean, this is the future now. Come on, guys. And this little Bitcoin thing might be able to push the banks over the edge to do maybe same-day transfers or something. But eventually, I've spent enough time with the natives, and I found that the Bitcoin way is superior. And
now will you help us lead an army against the Union?
And you know what? The main reason why one of the main reasons why we won at the regionals was because our team had internal discord where the presentation we gave, everyone didn't have the same opinion. It was differing opinions that won.
Art from adversity.
Yes. So
you ever notice how QE really pisses people off? You know, whenever QE is happening, there's big arguments about it, and there's op-ed pieces about it. There's a lot of drama and anger about it, and I realize that inflation actually isn't a problem at all. You know, like if I could issue a new currency on my software and inflate it every day if I wanted to, no one would get pissed off at all. The only reason that people get angry isn't because of the inflation; it's because they're all being forced to use a currency. You know, that's the actual problem. I can make some currency and inflate it all I want. No one gets angry there because they're not being forced to use my currency,
like Bitcoin. No one's forcing you to use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you made that currency and people in New York use it, I hope you're a registered bit licensee.
So I have a bit license story for everyone.
I hope you're compliant.
Oh, let's hear it.
So I was in New York calling my Uber because they're not illegal there yet, and I was right in front of the hotel where the conference was happening. And as I'm fiddling with my phone to call the Uber there, I saw someone walking down the street towards me. I looked up and I thought, I recognize that face. And the person looked at me and looked a bit startled. And maybe he always looks a bit startled, but I'm pretty sure he was genuinely startled. So I recognized who he was. And so I made sure to go right up to the person and said, "Hi, you're Ben Losky. I'm Roger Ver. Nice to meet you." And he's more than a little bit surprised.
And you didn't deck him. That sucks.
No, I was, smothered him with kindness.
When was
Not
this?
that I support what he's up to at all. He didn't even pretend. He went and passed a bunch of laws that make it really, really difficult for people to comply with, and then instantly set up a consulting firm to help people comply with those laws. I mean, it's just plain as day what's going on there.
I wonder
this
if
was just up there.
Is he profiting off of that?
I'm sure he's charging probably $1,000 an hour or something for the consulting.
You can get it.
This is the most recent trip up there you just did?
Yeah, this is like 4 days ago or whatever at the Consensus Conference.
So he was at the conference, or was he just
He
wandering
was at the
around?
conference. I think he was on a panel at the conference even.
Oh, got it. Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Well, he's the master of compliance, right? I mean, when you make the law.
I'm not sure I would want to go to a party where he was welcome
Pretty
to
good
show
authority.
his face, but okay.
Well, he's a party animal.
Yeah, I bet he is, boy.
Wow.
Does he have a nickname yet in New York?
Ben the party animal Losky. You guys didn't know?
Really, been the party animal. That's right.
Steals the bitcoins.
Man. Oh, man.
Wow. It's,
the arrogance of these people. Sorry, I just...
Right. Yeah, before the show, I was listening to a Larkin Rose video, and he made some comment about, like, if you went and demanded a bunch of money from your neighbors and started bossing them around and threatening them to obey you and called yourself their representative, they'd think you're a nutcase. And that's exactly what's going on with all the other politicians. They're taking a bunch of money from everybody, bossing us all around, and then they have the gall or the insanity to call themselves our representatives. So.
Yeah, I think they're more likely representing their own interests in those things. So. Was there anything else there that caught your eye as far as in New York?
No, it's pretty clear. It's the Empire State. It says so right on the license.
Nice.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, you got to give it to them, right? At least they're being, this is clear communication. This is honest and direct.
All right.
Can't fault them for that.
Yeah.
The United States Global Financial Authority.
Pre-Barrar, where's your jurisdiction? The world. That's good. I mean, that lays it all out there,
Yeah, Liberty Reserve, right? They weren't in the United States.
That's right.
Yeah, let's get into that. What do you think about this? The whole Liberty Reserve thing. I mean, 20 years. That's a pretty fitting. He got it off pretty light. Considering Ross,
Considering
right?
double life.
Yeah,
That's what they'll say to all of us now.
He didn't get double life or anything.
They'll be like, quit complaining. We gave you 40 years. It's not like double life, dude.
Right?
We went easy on you.
Well, they got all of Charlie's money, or millions of dollars. That was his get out of jail for most of his life, at least.
What angered them so much about Ross was that he directly questioned the legitimacy.
Yeah.
He basically outright said this isn't legitimate. They felt like he didn't respect the system and he didn't give it the proper respect of that it was legitimate in any way. That's what angered them some. In fact, she made a big speech about it when she sentenced him.
That's right. That's why I think he's got a potential for relief in sentencing too, because it was so nakedly political. The essence of his sentencing and both its reason. So yeah, oh my God. Well, you need to be made an example of because of what you believed, because of why you did what you did. This isn't how these statutes work.
A political prisoner.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, that's why we have American Black Cross.
Our movement's true political prisoner.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to donate to Free Ross, you can do it through the AmericanBlackCross.org. Is that the right?
Blackcross.org, yeah.
Just blackcross.org.
The American Black Cross. I haven't told that guy in the back there about it yet. So.
Oh, okay. But anyway, you can make tax-deductible donations to the legal fund of Ross Ulbricht through this. And what is the loophole or whatever for this? That
thanks,
political
Danny. Thanks
prisoners.
For setting up that way.
I don't know.
Well, Danny,
what do you want? Whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
The American Black Cross is organized to support and also, legally defend and protect the civil rights of American political prisoners, which is our charitable class. We protect American political prisoners. This has not before been a recognized charitable class by the IRS.
Well, it sounds like we have a new political prisoner to worry about with the Liberty Reserve.
Hey, look, our movement's got at least one, and we need to do everything we can, amass all the resources that we can to support them because they've
all right, and we'll catch up with that on the other side. All right, and welcome back to the Crypto Show. On the way out, we were talking about Ross, and during the break, Roger brought up that Ross recently wrote him a letter, and he wanted to read a few things out of the letter for us. Go ahead, Roger.
Yes. So about a month ago on Bitcoin.com, we had a letter writing campaign for people to write letters to Ross, and we published them on the website as well. And his letter was dated April 9th, but I just got it like a day or two ago. It arrived in Japan, and I think one of the I guess he's just saying so optimistic. One of the lines in his letter, he says, quote, "I figure the longer I stay locked up, the more amazing it will feel when I'm finally go free. So I'm just making the most of it as best I can. I try not to worry about it or when the day will come, though sometimes I dream of it. And he goes on from there, and he just kind of, when I read those words, I just feel that, this is a real person with real thoughts and real life, and an idealist that tried to make the world a better place. And as thanks for that, the United States federal government gave him a double life. It just seems so unfair and unjust.
Yeah. I think that with the recent nefarious actions of all the FBI agents and everything else that's gone down, I think it's looking a little better for, as far as his appeal, because now the government has a lot more to answer to that, they were implicitly involved in a lot of what went on the Silk Road. I mean,
they were the ones busy robbing and stealing.
Right. And that's when, that's when the Silk Road took a turn and started selling things that weren't quite as, moral as when the feds got in charge and started becoming the admins to it. So, all right. Well, you guys want to shift gears and get into the ride sharing? We love our Uber here in Austin and our Lyft, and apparently we're not going to have that tomorrow morning unless we leave the house before 5 a.m.
I'm telling you, man, Tinder is next.
Tinder is next.
Yeah. Mandatory blood screenings. That's where it's got to go.
Well, Cody, what did you have on that? I know you wanted to rail on the ride sharing, man. Come on.
Pissed off, man. Okay, the thing that really got me going, though, was that I watched Twitter. I watched #Prop1 and Uber and Lyft on Twitter after all went down. These hive mind socialists never actually believe that companies will go through on their threats when they threaten them. They just think I can regulate you any way I want all the time, and you're going to put up with it, and you're not going to go anywhere. And when you do go somewhere, but you're not going to, you're just bluffing, or you're just taking your ball and going home, and you'll be back because we're going to do what we want to do with you. And I cannot get over the smugness and the pettiness of the reaction that both shows, how we got to this city resolution in the first place.
Yeah, look at the mayor right directly after their little back-patting party. He went outside of Schultz's and was interviewed out on the street. And said, look, we won. Hey, I hope that Uber and Lyft will come and talk to us and let us, come back to the table. Let's make a deal now. Now that we've beat you down into the ground, let's make a deal.
All they were celebrating was the fact that they, the city Democrats and labor and police groups got together and on $100,000 beat an $8 million campaign. I get that they were proud that, in this limited contest, they were able to win. Good job. You steered it in your direction. But 10,000 people lose their jobs at 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning. Like 10,000 people lose their jobs over your little smugness. Did you see the pictures in the Statesman of these crippled bodies, these wraiths, these hags, Ann Kitchen and her little coterie, just scooping each other's mottled skin in each other's hands, and pressing their cold flesh together and, drinking, eating canapes. It was disgusting.
The joke's on them. Well, they're the ones going to be riding cabs.
That's what I'm. Well, they'll never ride a cab, right? That's the whole point. This boomer scum hasn't had to deal with the low capital situation that the millennials in Austin have, and then the millennials in Austin have. They've like bulls in their noses. They just read the Chronicle, and the Chronicle says vote safety. Okay, I'll go vote safety. Even though these people depend. Every little 2-bit hipster I know in Austin either uses or drives Uber for extra income because they didn't finish their degree, or they're getting a stupid music degree or something. Forgive me, Radioland, but they're doing food service out there, and Uber's the only way they can pick up extra money. It's insane. And didn't we build Lyft in Austin? Didn't Austin get built in this town? And we're just going to let the city we're going to let mom and dad take our companies away? I'm both bemused by the millennial response, or lack thereof, right? Just the total apolitical nature of these millennials, or the go-along nature of it. I want to see the numbers. How many of our peers voted to let this happen versus a bunch of connected and interested boomers who are mostly just trying to protect their own? I'm sorry, man, I'm scattered all over the place, but did you actually see that city resolution that was passed in December, the extent of this thing?
Yeah.
They didn't just want
handicap access, 2% of gross revenue.
It wasn't just about
extra vehicle inspections.
Let's see your city address on your car, and let's make sure you've done a background check with fingerprints. They wanted 2% of gross revenues. You're going to pay exactly what the taxi companies paid. You're going to provide ADA compliant vehicles. It's illegal for you to reject a fare if the person is covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or for some other weird things. Face-to-face interviews for potential people with cars if you wanted to be part of the safety program.
It's going to be the same for Tinder. It'll be the same for Tinder. They want handicap access for Tinder. They're going to want 2% of all the sex.
It wasn't rideshare anymore. With the data stuff. Forbes has got the great story on the data stuff. The data stuff was so minuscule and petty. It was every Monday report this, every quarter report this. How are you meeting the city's objectives with public access? Are you going to go run an event to disadvantaged communities and tell them about the accessibility of Uber? No, we're Uber. They're going to use it. Right? If prices go down, if they're going to use, we don't have to go to a community, hold an event, and tell them about how great Uber is. We don't have to conform to the city's projected expectations of public access to transportation. All these little things about all the programs that Uber and Lyft are now going to run, and just to conform to the city's expectation of their own planning, and then geofencing for events. On big events that the city defines, you weren't even going to have ride sharing. You're going to have where the city says you can do ride sharing. It's just the city just dreamed that they could steer these companies however they wanted to. It was about control. It was about expanding the sphere of Austin's government, bigger than most municipalities ever try to do it. and then being smug and self-satisfied when they spite themselves when Uber pulls out. I can't stand it.
I know that the taxi drivers were stupid. They should have quit. I used to be a cab driver, and I know, and those guys are getting raked over the coal. The way a cab driver usually operates is they have to pay a lease per day. So, I did
a prostitute.
Right. I did it in the late 80s. So it was like $60 a day. Right now it's probably $150 for all I know. So if you don't make $150 a day, you go into debt.
Oh,
that was they're getting screwed. If those guys would have just said, screw it, go buy a car, they would have been making almost all of the money for themselves.
Yeah.
So that Resolute, you have to have a chauffeur's license, right? Everybody who's ride sharing is going to have a chauffeur's license. You're paying your stuff. You're going to do your background check, which is going to at least be $40 unless they contract it out, which they made room to do. But then you can only drive 10 to 12 hours max every single day, which a lot of these people are only picking up. I get it. A lot of these people are doing it part-time. But if you're trying to make serious money, you don't need that kind of limitation on your ability to, in every aspect it was trying to govern.
Well, see, and that's another issue is the cab companies weren't, I don't know if they're still doing that, but at that time they would only lease it to you for 24 hours. So you have to make that money in 24 hours.
Right.
And sometimes you would drive 24 hours. Sometimes you would drive 48 hours. If you wanted to keep your car, keep your number, whatever, so you could keep your customers, you would want to.
You know what's ironic is that all these city liberals are so smug and arrogant about this, but what this is crony capitalism. This is a industry that use government force for protectionism to keep competitors out of their market. This is crony capitalism at its finest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that December 17th resolution, you can just go in the language and look at it. It was designed to both appease the taxi interests, the taxi lobby, to make it achieve parity in terms of registrations and fees paid, and also to shape and form when ride sharing could happen, where it could, to conform more to taxiing. You can't pick up hails. It would be a misdemeanor to pick up a hail as an Uber or Lyft driver. It was just to mold Uber and Lyft and ride sharing not into ride sharing, not let it be what it is, this ad hoc system of sharing capital with our phones, but just to make it another extension of city public transportation policy.
Part of the problem here is the voters. The voters did do this.
No, I agree.
Is there even going to be political upheaval if this is what the people are voting for?
Probably not. But
some of the local political guys are saying that this will be the bright side of all of this is this will be a tool to out most of the guys that are on the city council now. People will start realizing, hey, I'm drunkish, whatever at the bar, and I have no way home.
Well, what if a festival says, oh wait, we can't do Austin this year because there's no Uber? So we're going to go hit Nashville instead or whatever.
Yeah. The proposition was specifically worded badly, so they would get the votes and it effectively worked.
It was
just bad.
Quadruple negative.
Yeah. It was everything. All the bad faith in language, all about safety. Don't let corporate bullies bully us, right? It was Uber and Lyft and the Austin Republicans and literally on 4 and literally every city group, police, labor, every single Southern Democrat group. Everybody was against. It was a victory for municipal planners and busybodies, getting their hooks into something beautiful. It wasn't a moment of victory for local government. This is
it's a loss for the people.
And the whole how they were trying to sell it as they wouldn't be fingerprinting anymore. That was not even the issue because they were still going to continue to fingerprint. That was part of it. That's how they were trying to sell it. Oh, you need fingerprints to. You know who they need to fingerprint? The riders. It's not the drivers that are hurting people. It's the riders getting in that are assaulting the drivers. Let's make the riders fingerprint.
Hey man, before you think you're too smart on that one.
Yeah, I better not say that too loud. Don't give them any ideas.
They need to fingerprint all the Tinder users too.
The December 17th proposal actually had that you should display, if you're a rider as well, you should display the city thing showing that you've, there was this signaling that they wanted everybody to do, and they wanted 100% compliance with riders and drivers by late 2017 or something. They really thought it would work like that. They really think it will continue. They still think it will work like that.
Yeah. This good common sense regulation that they like to talk about results in people using cabs instead of Uber. And that's an illustration for so much of government. It's the sort of the thing that wasn't there or that never was because of the barriers to entry. Think about all the other industries that could be so much better in that same way that we just don't see because all the sectors are all sewn up vertically.
Yeah. I agree with what Chris says about crony capitalism. You can't, once again, with bad faith, this is simply the interest of the local interests hiding the fact that they protected the city, they protected the revenue streams from DUIs, they protected the police basically, getting their scalps and stuff. Ride sharing had driven DWI arrests down by 20-some%.
Oh, no DUIs, then you have all this revenue not going to the city for all the mandatory DUI classes and all that.
And each one of those in legal fees and stuff, that's $20,000-$30,000 a pop. They were losing a lot of. You can't tell me that wasn't part of the calculus.
But people are going to die now.
Well, I can't wait for
people are literally going to die, yeah.
People are going to die so they can get that money.
10,000
all right.
lose their jobs overnight, and people are going to die.
We're coming to break, so we're going to pick this up on the other side. And welcome back to the Crypto Show, where we're whining and complaining about ride sharing that won't be available tomorrow morning after 5 a.m. And we're talking with Cody Wilson, Chris Odom, Brian, the Dances with Bitcoins theory guy, and Cliff Baltzley. And me, I'm not telling you I am, so.
It's Danny.
Yeah. It's Danny something. Look on the website. It's right there. Anyway, yeah, go ahead with what you were talking about, Cody.
I mean, you're on a roll. I exercise a lot of my demons here, but look, my contempt for these people is limitless. All right, the Ann Kitchens of the world, these busybodies who live in their perfectly manicured houses in Hyde Park with the Hyde Park princesses. All right, that just think that they can, while working people, especially Uber and Lyft people, make money and try to have a better life and find social mobility. These people can just kind of slither on down to City Hall and connive against us and build these like labyrinthing and stupid. Go read this transportation network company resolution they passed in December of 2015. It is the most asinine and overwrought regulation, right? The idea that this city must have of itself, or this council must have of itself, the way they define, you can't do surge pricing in a natural disaster, right? The fact that, like, you think municipal power will be at a point where it can affect the law in moments of natural disaster. Give me a break. The data that they want, the amount and volume and regularity of the data reporting that they want, they could build a whole building full of bureaucrats and not know what to do with that data.
Didn't some of that have to do with they're wanting to build patterns on where you're going?
Yes,
and everything?
This city thinks that one day they'll be administering a fleet of super smart cars, a super smart fleet of cars where it'll just be automatic assignment of traffic patterns and everybody, you know what I mean?
Or at least super compliant cars.
Exactly.
It's actually very similar to the BitLicense typical. Very similar. Sort of this attitude that we rule, we're your rulers.
It's just the older you get, the more and more you see this pattern everywhere.
Yeah.
That a city government could think it could do this. I find that it's in this dislocation between generations. These people have probably never even used the app. And I don't just take it as their bad faith. I take it as that's how disconnected they are from the reality of how these applications work. They're literally in the resolution defining how the application should work. They are defining the application. Well, look, you got to show the rate really clearly, and you got to show alternative transportation, and you got to make sure that you show it on time. The market has produced this application for you. This isn't about corporate planning. It's about people using their smartphones and their cars to ad hoc find each other with the internet. It is not about a corporate presence administering the city's policy preferences. And all they want to do is just reach their lasso around it and conform these beautiful companies, one that grew up here, just conform those back into what a taxi is, an elevated taxi service that the city can then reap all the data from, doesn't have to do important work on, can just suck on that data and then pretend that one day it's going to use it for more effective city planning. No, it's just going to use it for more effective production of bureaucracies and stupid programs like the safety assurance program for ride sharing, where they literally would make, if you want to participate in Austin's safety assurance program for ride sharing, or Uber and Lyft have to do face-to-face interviews of potential drivers. Not just the fingerprinting. You got to sit them down. You got to vet them. You got to do all this other bull crap. It's just it just strains belief.
You know what this reminds me of?
We could just send them over to the RoboCoin machine, right?
You know what else this reminds me of is, when you were talking about how they're actually defining what features have to be in the app.
Yes.
Reminds me of Feinstein with this Compliance and Court Orders Act.
It's the same stuff.
Right?
Yes. Oh, this is how encryption works.
This is a great idea. Why don't we repurpose these RoboCoin machines that no one is using and use those to identify the people that are working for Uber and Lyft? Because you got to stick your hand in there. I think they want a fecal sample.
They'll go to
everything else. I mean,
don't laugh. Biometrics will be a part of it at one point, right? Spit in this cup before the car turns on.
Fingerprinting, biometrics are part of it.
Yeah, of course. It's already biopolitical. It's biopolitical in its essence, but that was mostly to satisfy people. Like, look, it's about safety and criminal background checks. No, it's about controlling a huge aspect of their revenue and telling them what kind of business they're going to run with geofencing and data collection. And it's about breaking down what ride sharing is and turning it into something else and then getting them to pay for it, making their business satisfy that for you, execute that for you. It's literally turning their business into an extension of your policy, which is everything now. Some businesses are good at it, like Google. Google is happy to become like this weird tumorous relationship with State Department to become an engine of policy. But not every business wants to just become an extension of some idiot city council's policy, and that Austin is in this place, like Chris was saying, of arrogance, that it thinks it can just tell large corporate entities from out of state how it's going to run its business, not just like rates, taxes, but how it's going to literally run its business, what its model is going to be in their city. It's so disconnected from stewardship of
if fingerprinting and all this is an issue with people, they could just have different levels of security within Uber and Lyft. Like, I don't want to ride with a guy who hasn't been fingerprinted or whatever. So send the guy that has. That could be an option in the app.
I mean, how does that not apply to Tinder?
I don't
want to have sex with someone who's refusing a fingerprint?
How do I know I'm safe?
Yeah, how do you know this person isn't a rapist or something?
People like us who would insist that we don't want anybody who hasn't been fingerprinted.
What if they have super AIDS and I don't know about it?
Yeah, exactly.
What you're telling me Facebook is enough?
You're telling me I can't get a blood screening from a Tinder user?
What is super AIDS on roller skates?
gonorrhea 3. I don't know. but like we're laughing, right? But they'll do that. They'll do that at some point once they can because the safety narrative is already there, and people have misgivings about Tinder, and the sphere of government for municipal governments is never big enough. So why wouldn't they go there?
Well, then next it's Facebook.
It's a public health issue.
It's a public.
I mean, with Uber, they actually reduce the DUI rates. Tinder increases the STD rates. There's actually a legitimate reason if you're on board with that kind of philosophy. There's just as legitimate a reason to regulate Tinder users as Uber users.
He's exactly right. That justification is enough to get in there and correct it. But here's what I really want to finally dig at. It's just this presumed entitlement. It's something about I saw in Vox this story about the style. The smug style of the American liberal. It's this idea that like even when they lose, that they're still smarter than you, that they had a better plan than you, and that you're too dumb to understand that what they wanted was the right thing for everybody. They can't just accept that, okay, yeah, we won, we disagree. It's like, oh, they'll be back because we know what's up, because it's progress, it's the religion of humanity. And they still want to congratulate themselves for being a progressive city that is, innovative. We're the new Silicon Valley. They want all those accolades, and yet they're just little liberals, right? They're just little, I can't beat myself, right? They're just these little liberals, man. That's all they are.
There's nothing wrong
They're
with being
small time.
smarter and thinking that you're better, but then to go and force it onto everybody.
Well, but what I'm saying is they're not smart about it. It's just this trafficking in the signs of prestige. Like this Butts guy in Ann Kitchen, hooping it up, right? With cocktails. Oh, we beat him. We showed Uber. We made Uber an example. You cut your own nose off. Right? And you beat your little millennial kids into submission, and you prevented them from making money.
I don't think they care.
If they were drinking their drinks, who drove them home?
Well, that's part of smugness. They don't care. They're congratulating each other. They're not congratulating the city. They're taking it around drinks for each other.
Is an overall domination of political control over the population.
That's sickening, man.
And it's happening in every way you look and everywhere you look. I mean, we're getting to the point where your cell phone is going to be your ankle bracelet, and unless you have your blood type and test and fingerprinted and everything else, they won't even let you get into the new version of Uber in 2020.
Your ankle bracelet. Are you saying that someday they're going to use cell phones to track my location?
Right. Huh? Exactly. They would never do that.
No, I already peeled that thing off my battery, so I'm good.
One day there's going to be enough of an insult from this city, from what it does. I'm going to challenge like Adler to a duel or something. You know what I mean? I'm going to challenge like Steve Adler to a duel.
Or just walk in the bar, take off your gloves, and smack him in the face.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, and it has to be a 3D printed gun.
What's the thing that you say? It's like I demand justice or something. What do you say? It's about honor.
I demand.
Yeah, there's a thing that you say.
Yeah.
It's like satisfaction.
Satisfaction.
I demand satisfaction.
I demand satisfaction.
Right? Right? I want to see him piss himself.
So is there a silver lining to this? Will we see more distributed underground style?
Wish, man. I mean, look, there'll be the city compliant Uber that pops up with the self-congratulatory young liberals that are connected to City Hall.
They already have it. It's called taxis.
I think it's
there's another one called Get Me.
Yes.
That they've stepped in. They said that we will comply.
I've heard that no one knows who owns that company. I've heard it's anonymously owned.
Oh no, it sounds like Bit Club. No, never mind.
There's theories that it's owned by taxi companies.
That makes so much sense.
No, it was actually when it came out, the creator of it was on the news.
The pet one will win.
Yeah.
The one that plays ball.
But there are a couple of others. Matter of fact, he's on the line right now. We should just go ahead and bring him on after they're through screening. There's a couple of others. Lazoo's seems to work. I actually just opened my Lazoo's app, and there are 5 people in Austin right now. It just Lazoo's.
Not 10,000.
How do you get paid though?
It's through a cryptocurrency, and what it is, it's a ride sharing program. It's a ride sharing program, and when you're driving around, you're creating miles, and these miles are mined tokens. So
it's token based.
It's token based. So basically, what you do, you have these tokens. No, you use these tokens to trade with other people who are driving around, and you carpool, and I guess you can sell them on Polynex or whatever. If
or
you
pump and dump them.
Because some hipster hanging out at Epoch has heard of that, right? You go sell this token or whatever at this exchange for tokens.
Right.
Well, Brian, the silver lining is if we don't see in the next 6 months where everyone recognizes clearly, okay, drunk driving incidents within the city of Austin are way higher than outside the city of Austin where you can still use an Uber, and all of the other benefits that, it becomes radically apparent to everybody that this was a bad move. If it doesn't get switched back, what we're going to deal with is in the next few years, we're back to crypto. We're going to find a crypto solution that is an open bazaar type of system that is digitally anonymous, and people will do ride sharing on full strength crypto and just bypass the system.
Like Bitcoin.
Chris David, are you there? Christopher.
Who is this guy?
I think they're still screening him.
Who's this guy? He's the owner
of Arcade City, which is a ride-sharing program.
And it's like based on Bitcoin?
Yeah. It's based on Ethereum.
Okay, so, man, this is generational for me. This is a millennial city, okay? And I know it's like this doesn't matter to maybe the people at this table, all right? But like this is a millennial city. One of these companies is our own company that we freaking built, all right? And like we're going to let these boomers, we should start the anti-boomer party in Austin. I don't know what you call it. Now it's simply built on intergenerational hate. I mean, that's all it is. Like, that's its quilting point. There's nothing more. And we ride the boomers out on rails.
Well, the joke's on them when the retirement comes.
Yeah. No, we're going to make sure you have a fingerprint, before you take a shit in your bedpan or whatever.
These people are all expecting that we're going to pay for their retirement.
But, and I say to her in the nursing home, how do I know that you're safe here? How do I know, right? Oh, they accept Medicare. Not enough, right? I want fingerprints. Also, I need data. Every Monday, I need to know how many shits you took. And
2% of gross.
That's right. I'm going to need 2% as well. Just to make sure that how do I know that you're safe? How do I know? Look, I think that there's opportunity here. Millennials are so apolitical. What can we get them on? This whole weird Oedipal thing that's happening with Black Lives Matter and all these other movements, like love me, Dad. That's so weird for me. Why don't we reverse that? Like, look, your dad's not gonna love you, okay? Power is not going to love you. There is not a safe space for you. You have to kill it, right? I think that's more constructive, all right?
Or starve it.
Are you there, Chris?
You got to kill your dad. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The Anti-Boomer Party, Austin, 2016.
Is that the music coming up?
Yeah, it looks like we'll be coming to break in about 20 seconds. We're trying to bring Christopher David online, and he's with Arcade City, which has went live in Midland, Texas, to fill the gap and the void for Uber and Lyft, and we'll see what that's all about and try to take it a little deeper from there. We'll be right back.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
For the longest time, for the longest, if you said that Bitcoin was my line, I would tell you, show enough, show you right. What else can I do? I'm so inspired by you, and I'm just holding for the longest time. Once I knew my stocks and bonds were gone, I knew Satoshi Nakamoto was the one to come and save me. And gripping money, bravery, and I'm just holding for the longest time. Hold for the longest time. Hold for the longest. Don't panic, the price will rise and fall. Ultimately, we're breaking through the wall. Sky's the limit, and I'm in it to win it. So I'm just holding for the longest time. They say this couldn't last very long, but I saw the light and knew you were wrong. Baby, I've been hoping too hard, but you've seen the price, and it's just gonna grow more. March 11th, orphan blocks were slow. Doubters panicked and let their bitcoins go. I took my chances, took all the loan advances. Now I'm just holding for the long.
And welcome back to the Crypto Show with the lovely sounds of Zhao Tong, however you want to say it. Anyway, we'll be talking to Christopher David in just a minute. I'm going to have to be bringing him on a different line. We're having a little bit of trouble getting him. So anyway, as we were talking with Cody about the ride sharing and whatnot, when we get Christopher on the line, we'll be talking about what he's got with Arcade City. Have you heard of Arcade City? Are you familiar with it, Brian?
I have not.
Okay, so apparently it's based on Ethereum and it's not a TNC. So it has some loophole or something that keeps it from being shut down.
Be careful
by
with
the
that
city.
loophole word there, Dan.
Yeah, loopholes.
We'll just tighten those loopholes right up.
Yeah,
Let's just write
right.
this in.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tinder is going to threaten, if we start blood screening, all the Tinder users are going to threaten to pull out.
Then what happens if they pull out? Get it? You get it? Yeah. We get it. Oh, man. All right. Well, what's your take on it then, Chris? What do you think about the whole?
I was actually just thinking about the current state of the Bitcoin world, where all the banks are getting involved, and there's definitely a lot of talk right now about how can this be applicable to banks? How can we integrate this for banks? How can we adjust this to make it work for banks? And there's a little analogy that I like to use for this. I just spent some time living in Europe, and in Europe they have a really good public transportation system. It's actually really good, and people use it. In America, there are many places where you would not use the public transportation, but in Europe, they would. And, so here's what it's like if you want to go somewhere in Europe. You walk downstairs, you get on a bus, you wait outside for 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, a bus comes by, you get on the bus, you go a couple stops down the road, 1 or 2 stops, and then you get off, anywhere in town that you want to go. And if you want to go to the next town, then you get off the bus at the train station, wait 20 or 30 minutes, and then you get on the train, you get off at the next town. And it works pretty well. And it's all, government controlled and so on. Now imagine one day someone invents a new transportation system where all you do is just snap your fingers and now you're just instantly anywhere on the earth.
Star Trek transporter.
Right. Now my question is, 10 years later, what do you think everyone's going to be using? That's basically the situation here with Bitcoin. That's the situation. Is everyone going to be saying, well, how do we figure out how to get this Snap transportation system and how do we add it to the buses? How do we get the buses involved in this? It's like, what does it matter? 10 years from now, there aren't going to be any buses. You might as well be, trying to adapt Bitcoin to work with stagecoach companies or something.
Right. And hopefully that'll be the model with taxi cabs. So anyway, we do have Christopher David on the line finally. We had to do a little bit of a workaround. He's actually through my cell phone here. But anyway, can you explain to us what Arcade City does and how it's worked out in Midland and what it'll do for us here?
Yeah, sure. So I was an Uber driver end of last year, had been familiar with Bitcoin and decided to pull the trigger on a decentralized ride-sharing service. Launched with something very simple in February. The timing worked out perfectly, partly because Uber and Lyft cut fares across the board 40% overnight early January. So we got like thousands of drivers signing up. And then in end of January, early February, Uber pulled out of Midland, Texas. Very similar regulatory dispute. And, this was 2 or 3 weeks before our app was even launched, but we had some drivers there on the ground, took initiative, printed up business cards, went into bars, recruited their own clientele, made a Facebook group, got 500 people, mostly riders in that group in 48 hours, got on the local media like 5 times, the same coverage about Uber pulling out, talked about Arcade City coming to town. And there was just like kind of this freak out by the local authority. Like, well, one of the news segments was like, Arcade City is now coming to town, but there's a problem. The local authorities say that they didn't get a permit. And then it, flashes to some city official and blah, blah, blah. And then it flashes to some Arcade City driver who, I had never, met previously, just, a couple weeks prior, I joined our Facebook group or whatever. And, I tried to equip them with talking points about why we're not a TNC, yada, yada, yada. But, it's been kind of amazing coverage. And, Uber is still not in Midland, but we've got a network of, 8 to 10 drivers there that are just exercising amazing teamwork and getting kind of, gypsy cab rides out to people. Even while we don't have an app, we pull our app out of the App Store to kind of rebuild it and stuff, and we don't yet have the insurance. It's going to be another couple months, but we're hopeful now to do kind of a repeat of that same situation on a larger scale in Austin with, plenty more people watching and plenty more people involved.
But what is the difference exactly between Arcade City and a TNC? Like, what's the distinction?
Well, as of now, we don't have a budget for providing insurance. We're not able to, and we're not really wanting to set ourselves up as the kind of central arbiter of vetting drivers. The idea is over the longer term to have that all be something done completely through market forces, through having people receive verification that they submitted insurance, and kind of like you were talking previously about having it be a little bit more a la carte, where you can say some driver, if they want to get fingerprinted and have that be transparent on their driver profile and let people filter by that. For now, we're calling ourselves kind of like a Craigslist, as in we are just an open marketplace that is facilitating that connection between the rider and driver. A number of our drivers have their own commercial insurance policies. Some of our drivers have gone so far as to create LLCs specific to their area, and some of them have even, registered with the local city and done all the things that the city wants. And, that's completely great. We have some drivers that want to do that. We have other drivers who want to kind of, extend both middle fingers up and just kind of do peer-to-peer and damn the man. And that's great. We can have, different strokes for different folks.
And how do you monetize?
I'm sorry?
How do you monetize it?
Monetize it through, we provide payment processing through the app, similar to Uber. Customer can connect their credit cards, and we take 10% as opposed to 20 or 25%. That's kind of like a short-term thing, and also optional. We have a number of our drivers. When we launched the app, we didn't have that in place, and a lot of our drivers had their own Square readers. So we have some people doing $600, $700 a week worth of fares, and they're only paying the credit card processing fee. They're not paying anything to anyone else. But over time, we want to, kind of at the corporate level, incentivize people to have rides paid through the app. And we're going to tie in kind of a gamification system where, you level up and you can, get more unlock perks and things over time, like, get higher referral bonuses, that kind of thing.
So in a way, these extra controls and regulations are just going to drive people into more decentralized solutions, similar to how banking regulations just drive people into Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that more and more people are going to see kind of the benefits of decentralization, and the driver force that we have thus far. I mean, not only do they really get the power of decentralization, and not just from even a government power standpoint, but even like decentralizing the pricing decision to the level of the rider and the driver, and letting the drivers set their own rates. Maybe 40%.
It took a very special brain to devise the theory of relativity, but was Albert Einstein born super smart? I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back with details on new discoveries into the famous physicist's brain in a moment.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Albert Einstein had one of the greatest minds in history, but was he just born brainy, or did thinking about physics cause his brain to expand? Newly discovered photographs of Einstein's brain may hold the answer. It appears the great physicist did indeed have something special between his ears. Einstein's brain has folds rarely seen in other brains, plus an enlarged prefrontal cortex, where people imagine events and simulate their consequences. Researchers don't yet know how these differences affected Einstein's remarkable IQ, but one thing's for sure, smarts had little to do with size. Einstein's brain was average-sized, relatively speaking, that is. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Actually be kidding about chemtrails.
Looking for some truth? You found it. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
I've been walking a tightrope between fact and fiction. Been wrestling with demons in small bottle prisons. Been talking to sinners who claim to be Christian. Been shouting at leaders who claim to be listening.
And welcome back to the Crypto Show. We're talking with Christopher David from Arcade City, which is a new option that may be available pretty soon right here in Austin to fill the gap of Lyft and Uber being forced out of town by the Austin Nazi Council. Some people call them the City Council. I call them the Nazi Council. Like it or love it. I don't care. Anyway.
Well, there's certain parallels. The Nazis came to power through a democratic election.
Well, there you go. Their police, the police uniform is very similar here. So,
yeah.
Especially the manner in which they use their pepper spray and shoot unarmed naked black dudes. They're pretty good at that. Anyway, so we're talking with Chris. Chris, so what's the deal on the app? You don't have the app yet, or is there a way to download the app? How can we get that?
Yeah, we threw together a very simple MVP in about 6 weeks. We put it in the App Store from February till a couple of weeks ago. It was, kind of a piece of crap, but it worked. It resulted in rides being given in 28 states and Australia. We just had a ton of inbound demand from countries all over the world wanting to bring Arcade City to their area. So we wanted to kind of rebuild the app on a better tech stack, kind of remove ourselves as the kind of bottleneck and kind of how we were manually approving drivers and stuff like that. So we're going to be putting the app back into the stores. The service will be live, and we were planning to do it in about 2 weeks from today. We're going to try and accelerate that to take advantage of the Austin thing. We are going to be putting up kind of a separate marketing lander tomorrow to start signing up drivers. But yeah, it's just a simple app. You can do pre-scheduled rides or on-demand hailed rides. Drivers and riders have their own profile. You start at level 1 and you level up. We want there to be an actual rating and reputation system that actually makes sense. Uber's system is kind of weird in that everyone starts off at 5 stars. So if you get someone who's a 4.8 and is given 3,000 rides and they're amazing, they'll have a 4.8, but someone new is 5.0. It's not really sensible. We want it to be transparent, who has what kind of verification and validation, and encourage people, if they want to go through the hoops and get fingerprinted and that kind of stuff, have that be on their profile. There are going to be some consumers who care about that, some consumers who don't. So it's a pretty basic app to begin. You can check out our YouTube channel. You can see kind of our plans to decentralize over time. We're talking with some smart Ethereum people about how to integrate Ethereum over time. The first major component we're going to be integrating is the identity piece. That's going to be foundational building block to the reputation system. That's really probably going to be the most important part of what we do here. We're looking at the Consensus Uport product, which is going to be production ready in a couple of months. So, we didn't want to wait to have everything be super fully decentralized on the blockchain. I think one difference between our approach and Lazoo's is, we wanted to get out the door with something quick that could better solve the immediate pain points of rideshare drivers as it exists today. We did not need to integrate blockchain or do anything much complicated to pioneer kind of a decentralized organizational model where we let drivers set their own fares. And that's really a hugely appealing to drivers to be able to be incentivized and be allowed to build up their own recurring customer base that no one can take away from them. That is not Uber and Lyft's model. Their model is to drive rate to the ground. That results in drivers making less money over time than more. And, we wanted to get into the market and establish ourselves as the driver-friendly rideshare company. So we'll be relaunching the app in about 2 weeks, hopefully sooner, but, stay tuned to our website and such for updates.
Is there a price cap on that you're, by regulations, for price gouging or what? Is there something that you have to adhere to that like the cab companies and everyone else does? How are you, able to not be a TNC? And
well, if these drivers set their own prices.
Very simply by creating, enough of a proper terms of service that's, similar to what you would find on Craigslist, not on Uber. We are not maintaining a fleet of drivers. And look, there's going to be city people, there's going to be statists that try to make the case that we are a TNC, but we've got a lot of, more kind of decentralization-minded lawyers looking to help us push the rideshare market further in the direction of decentralization and make those arguments. I think we'll kind of operate in some gray areas similar to how Uber and Lyft did when they began. But, we're just providing a way for people to connect rider and driver. There may be, a separate, there may be a legal entity that connects drivers with payment processing. There may be a separate legal entity that connects drivers with insurance. But we don't want to present some big, juicy target for lawsuits. We're just going to make sure that things are more flexible and decentralized than that.
Sounds great. I actually have another question because I can't download the app right now. Does it have that similar functionality where you hit the button and then you see the little car moving towards you on the map?
It will in a couple of months. The basic app is very simply like it's you put in where you want to go. It shows you a list of drivers who can take you, and you can message the drivers directly. The ride tracking will take us another couple months. We're in the process of raising seed round. We've done all this on kind of volunteer basis. So the quality has not been the best, but we've successfully proven the concept. We've proven that we can enter markets like Midland, spending no upfront money. We've proven that we can outmaneuver Uber at state capitals, as we did in New Hampshire. We've proven that we can beat Uber into rural markets. There was a headline last week: Arcade City brings ride sharing to Cedar Valley before Uber. Uber has one particular model. They're very focused on urban centers and kind of doing that algorithmic rate decrease over time because they want to replace everyone with self-driving cars, which is completely great, but that leaves out, a strong emphasis on that kind of rider-driver relationship that, a true focus on building up and strengthening that peer-to-peer connection can be quite valuable.
That's awesome. It actually just occurred to me that I don't really care if I can see the map. I just care if I can see, your driver will be here in 4 minutes. Your driver will arrive in 3 minutes. That's actually more important to me than the map itself.
I have a gas-guzzling truck, and I run out of gas all the time. And literally in the past few months, I've had to use Lyft 3 times to bring me gas. And I love it, You
have like a gas can in the back?
Yeah. So, how is Ethereum actually used on this? What's the significance of Ethereum, and why is it part of Arcade City?
So part of it is, and I'll just kind of give the disclaimer that I'm by no means a super technically minded blockchain expert, but we see 3 or 4 big uses for Ethereum, and theoretically some of this could be done with other blockchain stuff, but part of it is just kind of the vision and the way we see Ethereum going, where Vitalik says what Bitcoin has been doing to monetary value, Ethereum will do for human relationships. There are a lot of smart people thinking in terms of decentralized identity and reputation and how that's going to, support this interlocking system of different mesh networks that are going to interface with each other. And so when we look, a year down the road and we envision there being, a system of various driver co-ops, say, that can create their own, mini co-op. It's maybe a DAO, and it's got some, smart contracts that govern, okay, you can opt into this DAO, and, you're going to pay an additional 1% per ride, but you're going to get access to this, decentralized risk pool where you're opting in to pay this, but you start to swap in some of the insurance decentralized insurance concepts. There's all sorts of stuff there that we just get the impression that Ethereum is kind of that holistic approach towards innovating around peer-to-peer relationships. This all could be, number one, wrong, or if there's something that appears a year from now to be better for this, then we're not dogmatic about Ethereum, but we've gotten tremendous support from smart Ethereum people so far. It seems to have or almost be ready to have the kinds of things that we need to pull this off.
Will Ether be implemented as a payment?
Probably. We envision issuing a token called an Arcade token that down the road we want to incentivize transactions in the network to use Arcade tokens instead of dollars. Rideshare is just one possible use. We have people already using the same communication platform of the Arcade City app to do deliveries and all sorts of other, roadside visits, other services. But,
Well, welcome back to the Crypto Show. I may have dropped off the cliff there a little bit, but it's probably because Cliff left. Anyway, so we're talking to Christopher David of Arcade City, and I want to kind of find out what he's got going on, because the app is not available for everybody, but there are some other options, like some guerrilla options through Facebook and whatnot.
So until the new app comes out in 2 weeks, you can go to the Facebook page.
Right. So how does that work, Chris?
And what is the page, by the way, for the listeners?
Yeah, so, I say to people who would like to use the app, just you're best off just holding off and waiting for it to come out, so you don't deal with the headache. But I'd say also check out our website, arcade.city. We've got a contact form there if you're interested in joining our Slack channel. We've got a lot of kind of brainstorming stuff. We're building out a development team. There's a lot of action, but it's more kind of internal stuff. But just for example, how we're seizing on this Austin situation, we're doing the same thing that our guys did back before we had the app in the store when Uber pulled out of Midland. They just made a Facebook group. They just, networked. We've got drivers all over Texas that are making plans to drive into Austin to, network with people in person. So it's really just more of kind of a grassroots thing that happens to be sort of using Facebook and phones and stuff like that. And we're using that. We love that dynamic to kind of see what emerges organically. And then we use that, kind of feedback to shape exactly what app features we're going to want going forward. So I would say, you can sign up on our website to be notified. Give us your email address. We'll let you know when the app is back in the app stores later this month.
Have you ran into any problems with the police ambushing you or entrapment, trying to catch drivers and, saying that it's illegal?
No, not yet. And in fact, the only encounters I've heard people having with Arcade City is, police would, take note of there being a driver or two and saying they see Arcade City, at least in these particular cities I've heard stories from, as, helping to solve the DUI problem. And so they haven't given us any trouble. I am sure that will change once cities start putting pressure on us or looking for ways to crack down. I certainly had a lot of experience tangling with the police and the local authorities in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and some of those, issues are still ongoing. But I'm excited to kind of help other drivers use lessons I've learned there is going to be plenty of reason throughout this process for, drivers and riders to engage in maybe some civil disobedience. But yeah, imagine the applications of a true peer-to-peer network where people can connect and there's nothing, to crack down on that anyone can stop. There's all sorts of fun applications for that going forward.
Yeah, no, we actually had that problem here when Uber and Lyft first came out. I think they were trying to entrap some of the drivers, and I think at one point they were even threatening to impound their vehicles. So I don't know if you've run into any of that yet.
Nope.
All righty. So I guess go ahead and wrap it up with the best way that someone can find it. Just, kind of a final thought.
Arcade.city sounds like.
Arcade.city. And the Facebook
Arcade.city is the website. Check us out on Facebook or just search Arcade City. And there's all sorts of fun, hilarious updates on there about our progress in Austin.
All righty, man. All right. Well, we'll talk to you maybe again sometime soon once it gets rolling with the app.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Great stuff.
All right. So what do you think of that then, Chris?
It's probably better than taking a cab. It's good that he's providing an option. And I think that, when you see this sort of authoritarianism coming down on central services like Uber and Lyft, then it's going to drive people towards more decentralized solutions. That's actually something that I've said for years, is that a lot, in the Bitcoin world, in the banking world, is all this authoritarianism is actually just driving the development of this decentralized cryptocurrency software.
So Uber does one of the does multiple things with the ride sharing. So first, what they do is they provide a matchmaking service, and that one seems pretty trivial to be able to do in a decentralized fashion.
Just like Tinder.
Car Tinder.
Just like Tinder, yeah.
But they're also providing a reputation system,
right?
And this is one of the things that did you not innovate in this with the
open transactions?
Well, we've actually done a lot on identity and reputation, but I haven't really talked about it publicly that much. It's not a big secret, but we'll probably be releasing a video soon to sort of show it off. We have sort of a web of trust and identity system built into open transactions now that's based around Bit47.
Nice.
Will there be any implication in Stash that could be used for ride sharing?
Yeah, I mean, you could use it anywhere that you need to use identity and reputation, that sort of thing. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're sort of a platform, so there's all sorts of places where applications can take advantage of that.
My experiences with Craigslist, I would find it a nightmare to be able to find a ride on Craigslist. I mean, more than half the time, people don't even show up.
Mm.
And
remember the Craigslist killer? I bet that guy would be getting some downvotes.
You think?
Just the one.
He's got one bad. He's only got one bad star here.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to downvote someone when you're dead.
Yeah. Wow. So how would that work though with Stash? I mean, how would you make this ride sharing platform?
What we have is we have an identity, which is first of all, you just have an ID, like a Bit47 ID, right? And then we have a way of cryptographically tying that to a set of open transactions credentials. So that's number two. And so, for example, let's say that I meet someone and I scan his QR code on his phone with his ID. Then I'm able to just download his credentials from the network. I don't necessarily have to download them directly from him because the credentials are cryptographically verifiable against the ID. So once you scan someone's ID, then you can download their full credentials. And now here's his preferred email address or whatever information he wants to put on his credentials. Here's his preferred OT server or, his favorite Bitcoin address and these sorts of things. And then also people are able to make claims about their identity that others are able to verify. And the idea with our system is to try and automate this as much as possible. Like, for example, if I scan your ID on your phone, then, these phones are going to coordinate something automatically where they claim that they have met each other in real life and then they verify each other's claim. So that way you're able to sort of build this web of trust about who's met each other in real life without people having to explicitly go in there and, do like the PGP key signing. Because once people have to go in and do it explicitly, then it doesn't work.
Is that like the payment channel thing?
Yeah, Bit47 can be used for private payments. Uses Diffie-Hellman to enable payments on the blockchain that cannot be observed. So it'll sort of solve the fungibility problem to a great degree as well.
Is there any way of implementing the maps and the rest of it, or is that just something that you would want to do in an app?
The map, you mean like a Uber style maps?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would just be some app. And if they want to use our identity or web of trust, then they would have access to use it for rating each other or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. It seems like the matchmaking part is the easy part. The hard part is the making sure that the person who you are going to get in a car with is someone who is not going to kidnap you at the same time.
Yeah. Well, as Danny pointed out, could be the rider, not just the driver.
More often, as a matter of fact, I think there was a recent poll or some stats that said over the past several years there has not been any incidents of violence by an Uber driver or a cab driver in Austin.
But I've seen those videos where the rider gets in and starts beating on the driver.
It's always the rider, the drunk rider.
Right.
You've got a sober driver. He's not likely to start a problem.
So this sounds like a bond type situation. So if you need to post a $500 bond to start using the service, then
the surety bond.
If you throw up in the guy's car or something like that, then you gotta pay for that.
When you sign up for the Lyft app or the Uber app, you put your credit card information in there and everything else. So
right. So
they
it's
know
solved,
who you are.
It's solved in a centralized solution with Uber, and things are always easier with this centralized solution. It's when you go decentralized that you got all these problems with identity and incentives.
A centralized solution is always the sort of the easy way out. I think as Nick Szabo said that trusted entities are security holes.
Yeah.
And so anytime you reach sort of a difficult problem when you're building a crypto system, and it's very easy to just say, and then a trusted entity goes here. But that also creates this whole new host of problems, as we've seen.
Right. Wow. Well, I don't know. So I'd like to see Lazooz kick it off because it already has an app. So, I mean, if people in Austin would just download the app, LAZOOZ, and start getting it going, all it needs is more people to download it, and it'll reach critical mass.
Well, I'm going to play with it. I mean, what else am I going to do? Get in a cab?
Well, I mean, with the Lazooz, it's not really kind of ride sharing. I think it's more of a carpooling. It's you're driving around and you're creating this map of where you're going, and then it connects you with the other people that are going in the same directions. Or here's this guy that rides up and down my street all the time. I can hop a ride with him. And all of the users, you just pull the map up and it shows where everybody is. So you try to connect with those people, and then as you're driving around, you're creating this cryptocurrency by the miles that you travel, and you use that to pay for your ride. And then so when you're collecting these coins, as people start using it more, the coins would become worth more. And then when you want to cash out, you just put them on Poloniex or Poloniex, whatever.
But what if
Bitcoin?
What if I'm not driving myself? I just want to ride. Is there a way for me to ride without having to drive?
You could buy those tokens. So the more people need to buy those tokens, the tokens would be more valuable. And then you have just like all the rest of the altcoins that start gaining value on the exchanges.
Yeah. The problem with the altcoins is they need to have some people who want to store value in it. Man,
I'd just love to see the liberal city council go and try and ban carpooling next.
Right.
Stop the carpooling.
Carpooling is dangerous.
You need to get fingerprinted and have your blood screened if you want to carpool.
Yeah, you'll need an electric car.
And link your Tinder profile.
Yeah.
Link your Tinder profile. That's some good stuff. All right, man. Well, we're coming to the end of the show. It's been a lot of fun talking about the Austin Nazi Council, and we'll talk to you next time.